You're standing in your kitchen at 2:15 in the morning, bathed in the blue light of the open refrigerator, but you aren't actually looking for a snack. You're staring at the magnet holding up a wedding invitation for a cousin you haven't seen in 5 years, and all you can think about is the $400 you're going to have to spend on a hotel and a gift. Your mind starts doing that frantic late-night arithmetic. If the radiator in the car holds out for another month, and if you don't put anything into savings this paycheck, you can probably make it work without hitting the credit card limit. You've got a good job, you wear nice clothes, and your neighbors think you've got it all figured out. But in the silence of the middle of the night, you realize you're just a glorified middleman. Your paycheck shows up on Friday and stays in your account for about 11 minutes, and then immediately heads out the door to pay for things you already used or places you already lived. You aren't building a life. You're just managing a series of payments until you die. My name is Sam, and I spend too much time thinking about why we're all working so hard to stay exactly where we are. If you're ready to stop being a passenger in your own bank account and actually start owning your time, hit that subscribe button. We don't do get rich quick here, we just do the math that the banks hope you never figure out. Here's the thing about the financial wake-up call. Most people think it's going to be a big dramatic event like a job loss or a medical bill. But for most of us, it's a slow, quiet realization that we've been tricked. We've reached a point where the middle-class dream is essentially a subscription service that we can't afford to cancel. Here is a stat that should make your skin crawl. The average person will spend roughly 90,000 hours of their life working. If you're spending 80% of that time working just to pay for a house, you're never in, and a car that sits in a parking lot while you're at the office, you aren't an employee. You're a pass-through entity. Your life is just a temporary stop for money on its way to a billionaire's pocket. The wake-up call is realizing that your standard of living has become a cage that you're paying for the privilege of staying in. Let's look at some real math, because numbers don't have feelings and they don't care about your new car scent. Most of us think about prices in dollars, but that is the first mistake. You need to start thinking about prices in life hours. Let's say you take home $40 an hour after taxes. If you want to buy a $60,000 luxury SUV, that car doesn't cost $60,000. It costs 1,500 hours of your life. That is over 9 months of sitting at your desk dealing with meetings that could have been emails and missing your kids' soccer games just to pay for the hunk of metal in the driveway. And here's the kicker. Look, that car is going to lose 20% of its value the second you drive it over the curb. You just set 300 hours of your life on fire for the smell of new leather. When you start realizing that every upgrade is just you trading weeks of your finite time on this planet for something that will eventually end up in a scrapyard, the wake-up call starts to get a lot louder. The psychology of this is honestly a little depressing because we've been conditioned to use revenge spending as a way to cope with how much we hate our jobs. You work 45 hours a week at a place that drains your soul, so you tell yourself, I deserve this, when you buy a $300 dinner or a new pair of designer shoes on Saturday. But here's the trap. By spending that money, you're making it impossible to quit the job you hate. You're literally funding your own captivity. You're using the reward for your hard work to buy the chains that keep you working. It's a loop. You work to buy things to feel better about working, which means you have to work even more to pay for the things you bought. You're like a hamster that bought a really nice leather-lined wheel and now has to run twice as fast just to pay the interest on the wheel. Here's a second math example that really highlights the hidden leak that's keeping you broke. Let's talk about the math of $100. Well, most people think $100 a month is nothing. It's a couple of streaming services and a few takeout orders. But in the world of wealth building, $100 a month is a massive lever. If you take $100 a month and invest it in a basic index fund for 30 years, you'll end up with about $150,000. Now, let's flip it. If you have a $100 a month leak, maybe it's a car insurance premium that's too high or a gym membership you don't use, you aren't just losing $1,200 a year. You're losing the $150,000 that money could have become. Every time you say, it's only $10 a month, you are making a conscious decision to give up a chunk of your retirement so that a corporation can have a better quarterly earnings report. The real wake-up call comes when you calculate your freedom number. And I'm not talking about millions of dollars, and I'm talking about the math of enough. For every $100 of monthly expenses you can cut out of your life, you need about $30,000 less in the bank to retire. Look at that again. If you can lower your lifestyle by just $500 a month, you have effectively saved yourself from needing to earn an extra $150,000. Most of us are focused on making more money, which is fine, but we ignore the fact that cutting our costs is actually a faster way to buy our freedom. It's a lot easier to find $500 in your current budget than it is to grind out an extra $150,000 in your savings. But we don't do that because we're afraid of what the neighbors will think if we don't have the newest gadget. Now, for the counterintuitive twist that might actually piss you off, your high credit score is probably the biggest sign that you're ignoring the wake-up call. I know we're told from birth that an 800 credit score is the holy grail. But what is a credit score really? It's I'm a good little consumer score. It's a measure of how good you are at paying back debt so that banks can feel safe lending you even more money. A credit score isn't a measure of wealth. It's a measure of how profitable you are to a bank. There are plenty of people with 800 credit scores who have a net worth of 0 and a heart rate of 120 every time they check their mailbox. If you're obsessing over your FICO score while your savings account is empty, you're winning the wrong game. You're focused on your ability to borrow when you should be focused on your ability to never need a loan again. So what do you actually do? What is the practical takeaway from this late-night kitchen revelation? First, you need to perform a life hour audit. Go through your last 3 bank statements and next to every major purchase, write down how many hours you had to sit at work to pay for it. If that $30 DoorDash order cost you 45 minutes of your life, was the lukewarm pad thai really worth it? Second, you need to implement the 30-day rule for anything that isn't a basic necessity. If you want it, wait 30 days. Usually the I deserve this dopamine hit wears off in about 72 hours, and you'll realize you were just tired and stressed, not actually in need of a new espresso machine. Finally, you need to build what I call the wall of silence. This is your first $10,000 in a high-yield savings account that you never, ever touch. This isn't for a vacation or a new car. This is the money that gives you the power to say no to a toxic boss or a bad situation. The $10,000 is the first time in your life you will actually hear the sound of freedom. It's the sound of not caring if the car breaks down or if the wedding invitation shows up. It's the realization that you are no longer a passenger. You have a buffer between you and the chaos of the world. Look, the world is designed to keep you asleep. It wants you to stay on the treadmill, keep paying the interest, and keep clicking buy now to soothe the pain of your existence. But you can choose to wake up. You can choose to realize that a simpler life isn't a step down, it's a step out. It's an exit from a game that was rigged against you from the start. Wealth isn't about what you can buy, it's about what you can afford to ignore. Stop trading your life for things that don't love you back.